Hello guys and welcome to Watching Time. Today we're going to discuss a brand that I have been really curious for a long time to actually have the opportunity to review, and that's Christopher Ward, and a very particular model, in this case the C63 Sealander, that I think it's a really interesting piece and actually caught my eye when I saw it because it was quite an interesting reproposal of a GMT watch in a color wave that definitely is not your typical color for a GMT watch. And the Sealander C63 has been an alternative option for many that were looking maybe for a GMT watch that was a little bit smaller in size compared to the most classical GMTs. It reminds you a lot, and let's put out the elephant in the room directly from the start of the video, to a Rolex Explorer 2. Yes, and they have models that looks much more like them, obviously the polar and the black version, but even if it's inspired by that, I think the green edition that they have done here in this 663 was a little bit different. Me, myself, as an owner of an Explorer 2, I thought it was interesting to have a look at it and maybe understand if it's worth to getting into the collection. So first things first, I have to say that I'm really impressed at last with the quality overall of Christopher Ward watches. So I have been having a look at them for a long time, since they were released, for many years, that Christopher Ward has actually taken a good piece of market in terms of a watch company that it's UK based, that it's offering Swiss-made watches for an affordable price, so that's to say. But obviously they started with a very strong inspiration of other bigger brand models, and nowadays I have to say that the evolution that they are taking, it's really interesting because they're still offering a high level of quality. They are, yes, having models that are inspired by others, but they are also diversifying in terms of materials, colors, but also in terms of models that are different from maybe what they were inspired initially, but particularly with models of watches that are totally related to the brand with a new identity, but also movements. So I think this is something that it's interesting to take into consideration in the future, and how Christopher Ward will evolve in the years to come. Maybe 22, it's going to mark a change on it. So first things first, as I was saying, I am really impressed by the quality. The movement is Swiss-made, a Sellita SW302. It's a very good movement. Obviously, it offers the GMT functions, which is not a true GMT. It's based on an ETA, so it's not a true GMT hand. The color waves and the finishing are really spot on. I think how they have worked the stainless steel, for example, I really like it. I really like the touch of the brush stainless steel here. It reminds me a lot of Rolex quality in terms of how it has been brushed. It has polished areas that actually are going to give a touch of light, not too much, but enough for it to be noticed. The movement and the logo on the rotor, I think, is a nice touch to be added to a Sellita, and make it unique. Having the movement being open in an open case back, I think it's also an interesting thing because I always enjoy having a look at them. So the strap, in this case, I decided to go for this green canvas strap. It looks kind of distressed, and I think it was the intention when they developed it, and it's actually really nice, and the touch of orange in it actually works very well. The other thing is that the leather that they are using on the back, it's of good quality. So overall, it has a quick release also spring bar here. And overall, I'm really, really happy with the quality of it, especially on these leather parts that it has, and the buckle that is quite well brushed with the logo in there. As I was saying, coming back to the case, obviously they have diminished the size of the bezel to permit for a larger dial. This lets the watch, even if it's small in dimensions, because we're talking about 39 millimeters, to still sit and occupy enough space for it to be very visible and become a tool watch eventually that you can actually track your second favorite hour or time zone. So you also have a date at 6 that it has been placed quite elegantly, taking half of the space of what the usual hour markers will take. The Luminova, it's pristine and it works very well when it gets dark, so it's also of good quality. The brushing of the hands also, and I have seen this in the macro, they are very well done and very well finished. So overall, in terms of quality, you're definitely getting back what you pay for it, and maybe a little bit more. So I think that actually Christopher Ward has done a very good work in delivering what they promised, which was a good quality for a lower price compared to other brands. Let's go back to the design. Obviously, this is a GMT inspired a lot on the Rolex Explorer 2. It's important to say it because it is the obvious thing. But in this case, for example, they have used this green dial with a distress handmade dial, they call it. You don't see it very well probably on the video because of the lights, but depending on how the lights are going to be hitting the dial, you will see the distress lines, and it gives definitely the watch a very nice vintage kind of use feeling, and it suits really well the green. So I think they nailed it very well in terms of color. And this watch in particularly, I really like it also because of the overall quality sensation that it gives you when you are wearing it. I am not a 39 millimeters watch. I rather them be at least 40 millimeters and over for me to have them on my wrist. So here you have compared with the Tudor chronograph that it's obviously a 41, and you can see because of the biggest size of the dial and the smallest size of the bezel, it wears a little bit bigger than what it usually should, but it actually fits very well on the wrist. So you have also a limited amount of space that they have used for the height. I think it's around 11 millimeters, and that's also because of the movement that is not too thick. It's only around 4 millimeters. Thickness. The GMT hand works very well, but it's not a true GMT. So, but you are still paying a low amount for it, so that's totally fine. I'm not expecting a true GMT for that price level. So what are my overall impressions with Christopher Ward? This is a brand I have been trying to get in touch because I wanted them to lend me some of their other models. I wanted to showcase them and have a look at them. So this is probably something that we will be doing very soon. I'm going to, in the meantime, give you a brief shot of it. Because I really wanted to explore maybe some of their higher end models and movements that they are now launching. As you can see, this works very well, even on my 18 centimeters wrist. And even if it's on the smaller size level, it actually works quite fine because of the bigger dial and the smaller size of the bezel. So maybe I will be showcasing a video soon if I manage to get some of these watches in order to review it. What I can actually tell to you guys, and this is also an advice for Christopher Ward, if they are or not interested in listening. Obviously, they have a very big community of customers right now. And I totally understand that it's once you have a brand going on, it's not so wise to change many things, especially if they are working. And they have changed things in the last few years, especially around the logo and how it was represented. The logo that you see here on the crown, it has been used several times in the dial, and even in a too much exaggerated way, because you had this logo plus the Christopher Ward written all in a line or written starting on the left side. So what is my advice here for them? First of all, they have a very interesting thing going on, and I should really push them to even go further. I think they can become one of the renowned brands of the future in terms of watchmaking coming from the UK. So that's a bravo to Christopher Ward. The quality and the prices that they are offering are really, really good. And maybe in the future we can expect more higher level price watch that people will be willing to pay for them. My negatives on this brand, and also one of the main reasons it took me quite a lot to actually grab one of their deals and have one of their watches part of my collection, it's the logo. I really have a problem with the Christopher Ward logo. I don't know how to put it in a nice way. I would be probably calling a brand my name if I had one, but I think it doesn't work. It doesn't really work. It gives you a weird sense, at least to myself. When you see all the watch brands around, they are usually, first of all, short, easy to remember, uh, and not particularly big enough to put in risk the elegance of the dial. In this case, I think the logo actually it's a disturbance element in the dial. I don't like the whole Christopher going around. First of all, uh, it it gives you a strange feeling to have actually a first name in there, and not just a surname that usually it's what you will find on other brands. um, I should really advise them to revise this design strategy, if we want to call it. I think Ward will work just fine. If you really want to have the CW there, that's also perfectly fine. You can find an elegant way to put CW or C Ward as the name logo on it. Or you can go back to using this kind of logo that they designed for the past and just keep it at that without using the whole Christopher Ward thing on the dial. This is my personal opinion. I think in terms of aesthetics and design, it really disturbs some people. It reminds me of other brands that had really horrible logos but really good watches. And I'm seeing the same thing repeating here with Christopher Ward. They have so much too compelling use of elements that are going to disturb you at the end of the day and probably make you run on the other direction than what the watch brand is taking you. You already have the Trident, that it's an icon already from Christopher Ward in the second hand. That's already a logo by itself, so you can probably repropose the Trident somewhere else. Christopher Ward, it doesn't work. And this is one of their lightest dials out there. There are dials that are really more exaggerated in terms of the use of the logos. Inside, you have the logo on the crown on the dial, you have Christopher Ward written on the dial, you have the Trident on the dial. Come on, guys. You also need to have something that is more aesthetically elegant and that will work with all your models. In this case, the C63, it can be the 660 or any other. This is just an advice from an aesthetic point of view, on my opinion on the brand, but I think they're doing an excellent job. They are a brand that should be taken into consideration by many people. And if you haven't had one in your collection, well, my overall opinion is that you should probably start considering them and add them to your collection. There are many options, many designs, and maybe in the future, I will be showcasing some more of them for you to take into account. So until then, this is a goodbye for now. Take care, and until the next video.